Hey everybody, my name is Deja and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be ranking recent reads. So I filmed my April wrap up, but the footage got lost. So then I was like, okay, I'll just combine my April and May wrap up, which is what I'm basically doing in this video. But I ended up reading 20 books in May. So there was going to be like 30 books to review. And I was like, I'm not doing that. We're just going to do a tier ranker where I can give kind of quick popcorn reviews for each book. And we have some fun tiers. And they're all based off current TikTok sounds that are on my For You page. I have a very specific For You page. So you'll probably have a different one than me. But these are all on my current For You page. But before we get into the tier ranking, I still do want to go over my stats for those 2 months. So in April, I read 10 books, 4 of those were by POC authors, and it accounted for 3,423 pages. I didn't have any rereads or DNFs. For genres, I had 2 fantasy, 3 horror, 1 mystery, 1 romance, and 3 thrillers. For format, I had 2 audiobooks, 1 ebook, 3 physical books, and 4 that were a hybrid or tandem read. And for audience, 9 of the books I read were adult and 1 was new adult. And then for ratings, I had 1 2-star, 2 3-stars, 3 4-stars, 3 4.5 stars, and 1 5-star. And then for type, I read 6 novels, 1 short story collection, and then 3 were graphic novel or manga. And then for author status, 2 were debut, 3 were new to me, and 5 were repeat authors. In May, I read 20 books, 4 of those were also by POC authors, 1 was a reread. I had no DNFs and it accounted for 4,884 pages. I had 1 fantasy, 10 horror, 1 nonfiction, 4 romance, 1 sci-fi, and 3 thrillers. Then for format, I had 8 audiobooks, 5 ebooks, 2 physical books, and 5 hybrid. And then for audience, I had 17 adult, 2 new adult, and 1 young adult. For ratings, I had 1 2-star, 1 2.5, 2 3-stars, 2 3.5 stars, 6 4-stars, 3 4.5 stars, 4 5-stars, and 1 that I did not rate because it's nonfiction. And then for type, I had 12 novels and 8 novellas. And then for author status, I had 7 debuts, 7 new to me, and 6 repeat authors. That was a lot of stats, I'm sorry, but a lot of y'all say that y'all really love my stats, so I'm gonna keep doing them. So getting into the tier rankers, I'm gonna start at the bottom. So first, at the bottom, I have Bombastic Side Eye.
Bombastic side eye. Criminal offensive side eye.
So these are going to be the worst of the books that I read for these 2 months. I wouldn't say that any of these are super bad because I didn't give out any 1 stars. 1 star for me is like really like unredeemable. So I rarely give out 1 stars. I only have like a handful that I've ever given. So even like my worst books of the year is mostly 2-star books. Then the next one up is I Need to Buy a Gun.
Afternoon. What can I do for you?
I need to buy a gun.
And this one is going to be more for like disappointing books. These ones are going to be more like 2 3-star, but they were just disappointing to me for one reason or another. Then the next one is You Sound Like a Effing Munchkin.
Bitch, shut the fuck up. You sound like a fucking munchkin.
Which is for books that are annoying, forgettable, or mid. These books are just kind of noise in the ether and they're not anything special. They literally just are a munchkin. Then there's Ain't No Lackin'.
Ain't no lacking. She say I'm a nigga from the trenches with an accent.
And this one is going to be for books that are pretty good. They're not lacking. They're pretty good, but they're not like a fave. Then I have That's My Man.
That's my man. Flip my wrist with all type of bands.
And this is for books that we love, but it's not for books that we stan. The books that we stan is You Know Them Dreadheads Do It the Best.
You know them dreadheads do it the best. Oh yeah.
Because you know these books do it the best as well. So those are my tiers, and let me X out of that. So those are my tiers. You can see all the books that I read down here, and so I'm just going to start ranking them. So the first one that I have up is Exquisite Corpse, which is kind of ironic because it's next to Them by McKay, and Exquisite Corpse is one of their favorite books. But for this one, I'm gonna put this in I Need to Buy a Gun because this one was disappointing. It's kind of like I Need to Buy a Gun and You Sound Like a Effing Munchkin because I just was disappointed in this book. I enjoyed a lot about it, but this is actually in a reading vlog, my extreme horror reading vlog. A lot of these are for that reading vlog, so if there is any reading vlogs, I will link them in the cards up above and down below so you can get my full thoughts on them. This one is like a good majority of that reading vlog as well. I just found this one really slow. The synopsis literally went into like 70% of the book. It was super slow. There were some weird choices that were made, but I enjoyed the themes that it had about being queer and how that affects you. And also this talked a lot about like the AIDS epidemic, which I don't know that much about. Like I know about it obviously, and I'm part of the LGBTQ community, so obviously it affects my community, but I don't know much about like the history of it and how it really impacted people on a daily basis during that time period where it was really prevalent. So I really enjoyed discussing those themes, and that's why it was like a 3-star. That's why this one was like a 2.5 for me, because there was a lot that I enjoyed about it but a lot that I didn't. The plot line and the pacing was just not my fave, but I really enjoyed like the themes and the writing. Next up, going to them, and it's going in, you know them dreadheads do it the best. You know that McKay is going to deliver and do it the best. We all knew as soon as McKay announced his book, we knew it was going to eat down. And did it eat down? It did. Okay? This follows a woman, and one day this follows a woman named Jeanette. She's in her home one night, and this emergency broadcast comes on the TV while she's watching a movie, and it kind of like cuts out. She doesn't really know what's going on, but all she really hears from it is they look like us. We don't really know if they're like aliens or what, but there are like these clone type people that are starting to murder people, and it is just so good. The gore in it was phenomenal. It literally made me throw up. This one is also in the extreme horror reading vlog. It literally made me throw up. So if you want to see me viscerally reacting to this book, you don't see the throw up, you can go watch that reading vlog. It is so good, and I loved the writing. I loved the themes. This was done so well. Like the gore has a purpose, it has a meaning, and that's what I loved about this story. Next up is Uzumaki, which was another banger, and it is going in, you know them dreadheads do it the best. Like this really delivered. I read a manga because I was supposed to be doing a manga reading vlog. It's not happening, but I did read a manga that everybody loves, and I gave it like 3 stars, and I was like, am I broke? Like, do I just not like manga? But this really delivered, and I absolutely adored it. In this, we follow this town that is cursed by spirals. We do follow one main character, and she also has like a guy best friend, and we follow him a lot as well. And I definitely enjoyed the first half more than the second half, but it was just so weird, and I loved the imagery, and I just loved the story so much that I had to give it 5 stars. It was so cohesive, and I just absolutely adored it. Next up is The Butcher by Jennifer Hillier, and I'm going to put this in Ain't No Lackin'. This one was pretty good. It was actually a little disappointing for me because I thought that this one was going to be like a 5 out of 5 star for me, but I think I gave it like 3.5 or a 4 star. But I would definitely recommend this one. I think it's a good serial killer thriller if that's what you're looking for. I wasn't as attached to the characters as I thought I was going to be, and I really liked the plot twist, but I did feel like the story was a bit slow leading up into the plot twist, because we know who the killer is basically from like the beginning of the story, and so about like 50-60% of the story is just kind of like him killing people, but like not in like a fun way, and like people trying to discover stuff out. But once the plot twists start coming, it really is like crazy. Then I have The Girl in 6E, and I'm going to put that in That's My Man. I actually really enjoyed this, which was surprising. I went into it with lower expectations, even though some of my friends absolutely love this one. But in this, we follow a cam girl, and she stays in her apartment for everything. That's why she's a cam girl, and she gets every single thing delivered, which was hard back then because this was like earlier in the 2000s when it was written, so we didn't have like Prime delivery or anything like that. I think they actually do talk about Prime in here, but it was like way more expensive, and like grocery delivery services and like food delivery services weren't really a thing. And she stays in her apartment because she's scared that if she leaves, she's going to kill somebody. And I actually really enjoyed the exploration of trauma throughout the story. I thought it was done super well. I didn't expect it to go in that way, but there's also a second storyline, and that kind of like all connects together. This one I read for my 48-hour readathon, if you want to check out that reading vlog for more of my thoughts as well. And The Butcher was actually my book club pick for Patreon, so if you want to see the live show on that with all my thoughts, or the reading vlog that I did for this one, you can go check out my Patreon, which is always linked at the top of my description box if you want to join. And then next up I have City of Bones, which was a reread for me, and I'm going to put that in That's My Man, because I actually had a great time reading this one, which is really unfortunate because Cassandra Clare is kind of like a problematic author, but I wanted to reread it for the nostalgia, which I also have a whole reading vlog on just this book. I did a lot of reading vlogs, which I'm really proud of myself for, because I've always wanted to be a reading vlog girly, but it's just never worked out, but it's starting to actually like work out. So I really had such a fun time rereading this one. The world is absolutely impeccable. I will say Cassandra Clare creates an impeccable world, and I see why she has 1,000,000,005 books in this one world, because I would too, because it's literally so well crafted and done. The writing and the characters are a little bit annoying, but the nostalgia of it all really hit me. I didn't expect to be as nostalgic for this book as I was, and I just literally loved every single second of reading this book because it just really hit, like it really just satisfied that craving that I had for something that really reminds me of why I started to read in the first place. Next up I have Sour Candy, which I'm gonna put in Ain't No Lackin'. I read this for that 48-hour readathon vlog as well. This one follows a man and he is in a grocery store one day, and this child starts to like make a ruckus, and the child ends up becoming part of his life in some way or another. This is like a creepy child story. I really enjoyed like the creepy child vibes, but the direction that it kind of went in, like, I don't know how to say without spoilers, but the direction that it went in was just not my personal type favorite of story, which is why it wasn't like a fave for me. But I would definitely recommend this one because I think that there's an audience for it, and I still had a good time reading it. I thought the writing was really well done. I enjoyed the characters, and I enjoyed like the way the story was formatted. I thought it was done, like the pacing and the way that it was just set up was done very well. And as I said, I love creepy children, so this one really hit that creepy child spot, but the direction that it went in just was not my particular favorite, but I think that it could definitely work for some people. Next up I have The Big Score by Elle Kennedy. This one I'm going to put in You Sound Like a Effing Munchkin. This one I gave 2 stars, and I don't even know how to talk about this book. But so basically, we were on Haley's Patreon sprints, and I was like, okay, like, you know what I really want? I want a black hockey romance. And I was like, do they even exist? Like, I've never even seen one before. So I started doing research, and we found this one called The Big Score. And we were like, oh my god, like, this cover is like so funny, like we have to read this. So Haley was like, should we just like buddy read it all right now? So we literally buddy read it at like 2 a.m. on her reading sprints, and it was such a good fun time. And the character in this is literally delusional. So in it, we basically follow this main character, and she is like, oh my god, like I'm such a nerd and I want a really nerdy boyfriend, but everybody else is like a fake nerd. Like nobody's on my nerd level. That's literally like what she is. She's literally so delusional and so crazy. Obviously, this big broody man hockey player shows up, and he's like, I really like you, basically. And we kind of follow it from there. I found him hella annoying, which is why this didn't get 3 stars, because I had such a good time with this story. I didn't even hate the main character, because even though she was so like delulu and crazy, like relatable, you know what I'm saying? Like it's relatable. But the writing was definitely giving like Wattpad. Like it was not good writing at all. And it didn't even have any hockey in it. Like he's a hockey player, but we don't even see any hockey, which like if we saw hockey, it would have got a higher rating. And if the male main character wasn't creepy as hell, then it would have got a higher rating, because he was so creepy and like not in a good cute way, like in a bad way. Then I had The Last Mrs. Parrish, and I'm putting that in, and That's My Man. I really enjoyed this one as well. This one was my Patreon book club pick for June. This one was my Patreon book club pick for May, so there's a live show and a reading vlog on it on my Patreon if you want to check that out. This one, I keep saying that Gone Girl walked so this could run. This is really like a bitch I'ma steal your life type vibes, and I absolutely love that. I think it's so fun and fresh, but I do talk about in my live show how this could have gone deeper. This one I feel like wanted to talk about classism, but it didn't, and I feel like it could have brought in a lot of stuff about classism into it that it just didn't. And it also doesn't really talk about the past of our main character. Like we get some inklings of it, but I feel like there's a lot of trauma in her character that could have been discussed and just wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like that's why I originally gave this one 4.5, but I bumped it down to a 4-star because I think it's a good, well-crafted thriller. I really liked the like bitch I'ma steal your life vibes, and the characters were so all morally gray, which I really liked, but it brought in these ideas and then just didn't fully expand on them. Like I would have been okay if this was like a fun, fast-paced thriller, but it didn't even really talk about classism. But it talked about classism just like a little bit, but it was like not enough, you know what I'm saying? Like if it just didn't touch on it at all, then I would have been like, oh okay, you know what I'm saying? Like she just wants money because she's rich. But it literally, like I was like, oh, she just wants her money because, you know, she's rich or whatever. But it just didn't, it touched a little bit on it, but not enough. Like I'd rather just have not done it at all, or to have gone into it fully. And as I said, the main character, I feel like she could have been fleshed out more, but in this we follow our main character, and she sets her sights on basically becoming the new Mrs. Parrish. by slowly weaving her way into the parish's lives and taking over. She starts by just talking to this woman at the gym, but she does research on her before, realizes that she has an organization about cystic fibrosis because her sister died from cystic fibrosis. So she lies and tries to connect with her, and then slowly becomes really good friends with her, gets a job related to them, everything like that, and then slowly starts to take over. But as I said, Gone Girl walked, so this one could run. So that's all I'm gonna say on that. But it was a really well crafted thriller, but I feel like it could have done more and it didn't. Then I have Moonstruck, and this one I'm just gonna put in like You Sound Like a Effing Munchkin, because this one was okay, like it was fine. It just wasn't a standout to me at all. It's just mid. Like again, as I said, it's just noise in the ether. And so this one, I can't even tell you what it's about. I just know that it's queer and it follows like these characters that work at a coffee shop, and it is like a fantasy. I would honestly maybe continue in the series. It's really cozy like fantasy if you enjoy that, but I feel like cozy fantasy like Legends of Lattes is done better than this, and I still only gave that one 4 stars because I don't know if cozy fantasy is like necessarily for me. But this one, if you do like cozy fantasy like Legends of Latte, I would definitely recommend this one for like a cozy fantasy graphic novel. Then I have Taken Back by Kia Abdul, and I'm gonna put this one. Then I have Take It Back by Kia Abdul, and I'm gonna put one in That's My Man. I really do like this one. I think it really went there. Like it did the opposite of what The Last Mrs. Parrish did. It is a really well crafted thriller, and it is like a legal thriller, which I know is not for some people, but I enjoy legal thrillers. It's really well crafted. I love the characters, but it was a bit slower and a little bit more plotless. But it had really good discussions around like immigrant families and like being a part of a community and what that means, and also like rape culture and everything like that. But the ending of it, I still don't know how I feel about it. It can kind of go either way, where it kind of makes or breaks the book for you. And I don't know, I feel like it's kind of very similar to like Allegedly and how that one ends. And these books kind of give me similar vibes, but I just enjoyed Allegedly more. But if you do like this one, I would recommend Allegedly. It's not like a legal thriller, but I feel like it just has similar vibes, and they do have different themes, but as I said, the vibes are very similar and the endings are pretty similar. As I said, some people really love it, some people really hate it, and I just really don't know. It kind of does make the story, but it also kind of breaks the story. So I don't know, like there are parts of it that are like, oh my god, that's a crazy twist. Like it's a good twist, but also like it kind of betrays the themes. So I don't know, but it was a really well crafted thriller, and I think if you're looking for something like a thriller that has a lot of themes and a lot to talk about, this one is definitely one for you. Then I have Fina, and I'm gonna put this one in You Know Them Dreadheads Do It the Best. This is like a sci-fi version of Horror Store. If you like Horror Store, pick this one up for sure. Even if you didn't really love Horror Store but you wanted to, pick this one up and you like sci-fi, because I feel like Horror Store kind of goes in a really weird direction that a lot of people don't like, and this one does not do that. I did enjoy how Horror Store went more into like the themes of capitalism, but this one I think just had really amazing characters. It's queer, which I absolutely love, and it just did what Horror Store, it just did what I wanted Horror Store to do plot wise, and it was just done so well. I can't really talk too much about it because it's so short, but I just really love this one. Then Know My Name by Chanel Miller is also going in You Know Them Dreadheads Do It the Best. This is one that I didn't rate because it's nonfiction, but this one really does go into rape culture and how rape and sexual assault affects people, how it affects everyone around them, their entire lives going forward, and how going through a trial is very taxing. And I just loved a lot about this, and I could really relate to Chanel Miller on a lot of different levels. Surprisingly, one thing a lot of people won't be able to relate on, I do, and that is she had a lot of student suicides at her college, which also happened at my college this past year. So I feel like I was able to connect with her even on a deeper level, but I just thought this was such a well done memoir, and it was actually a longer memoir, but it flew by. It was really engaging, and the writing was really done well. It's literally so good, and if you're looking for a memoir to read, this is the one. I promise you, no other memoir is gonna eat how this one did. The next up I have The Groomer, which was read in my extreme horror reading vlog, and I'm doing this one for You Sound Like a Effing Munchkin. This one was good, but it definitely was lacking. Like I can't put it in Ain't No Lacking because it was lacking in some aspects. I talk a lot about this one in the extreme horror reading vlog. So in this we follow a family, and they start seeing this man everywhere, and they originally meet him because he was supposedly taking pictures of their daughter at the park, and now they start seeing him at like the grocery store, at the restaurants, and they're like, you're really creepy, like you're up to something, but they have no proof, so they can't really do anything. But, you know, it's about a groomer, so some stuff does happen, and we do see some other grooming related stuff going on, and I did enjoy like those themes, but being in the main character's head was just not for me. The main character is the father of the daughter, and he just literally, like, being in his head was miserable for me, and I just really didn't like it. The ending was kind of crazy though, but I feel like this honestly could have gone more extreme than it did, for it to be like considered like really like extreme horror. Like, John Ethan is an extreme horror author. For him to be considered extreme, this didn't go like as extreme as I thought it was going to, and maybe that's just because of the subject matter, but I feel like it could have done a little bit more extremeness. And then also, I don't know how they would have changed the perspective, but I hated being in that man's head so much. Next up, I have Sweet Hand. This one is gonna go in Ain't No Lacking. This is a really good, this is a, maybe it's That's My Man. It's like in one of these. I'm just gonna put it here for now, but it is a super good romance. I really enjoyed this one. We follow a baker who's on the islands, and this is a hate to love romance. As I said, it's a really good romance, but I can barely describe it to you because it was a little forgettable how a lot of contemporary romances are for me. So I really did enjoy it. I enjoyed the food. I enjoyed a lot of like the family aspects and the culture that was discussed throughout the story. Like, I loved the black culture throughout the story because it's a very different black culture than my black culture. So I really enjoyed seeing that. As I said, I enjoyed the food, but it just wasn't like a standout for me. It's a little slightly forgettable. And then I have Woman Eating, and for this one I'm gonna put it in You Know Them Dreadheads Do It the Best. I really like this one. It is actually pretty slow, so I know that's been a critique of a lot of the stories that I've had, but this one is kind of like no plot, head empty. This one is, I would describe, like a literary horror. It's definitely a horror because it's about a vampire, but it has more literary themes, and how a lot of literary fiction has like no plot is very similar to this one. And so I really enjoyed a lot of aspects of this one because I think the themes were done so well. It wasn't like in your face shoving the themes down your throat, but you got the themes. And even though this is about a vampire, it's really about the human experience. And I absolutely just adored the themes. I enjoyed the main character. I enjoyed the atmosphere, the writing. It was just done so well. And then I have Everything the Darkness Eats, and I'm going to put this in I Need to Buy a Gun. This one was super disappointing for me. I read this one in my 48-hour readathon vlog, and this one was just hella disappointing. Like, sorry if the angle changed a little bit. My battery died. But this one was just extremely slow, and not in like a good way. It was in a boring way. It wasn't like a literary like time where it was exploring all these themes. It was just kind of boring. The themes didn't really kick into the end, and like most of the story was just really boring. And I think that Eric LaRocca writes best in a non-traditional format, like not a novel, like in a short story, or just kind of breaking like the novel rules. And this one was really trying to conform to the novel rules, and I think it really hurt the story. If you want more of my thoughts and like a full in-depth review, check out that video. And then I have Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney, and I'm going to put that in That's My Man. I don't even like locked room mysteries, but this one pulled me straight out of a slump. The ending is crazy, and I absolutely love it. Like, it's kind of like unhinged and like weird, and I feel like I'm developing because it's not the type of story that I used to would like at all. And then the ending went in a completely different direction, and it's not the type of ending that I used to like either, but I think something about it just worked for me. The writing just really worked. I think it's Alice Feeney. Alice Feeney just knows how to click with me, and this was like just like a super fun thriller that pulled me out of a reading slump. It's not a literary masterpiece by any means. It doesn't have like a ton of themes in it or anything like that, which I feel like to be like, You Know Them Dreadheads Do It the Best, like in the top tier. Like, it either has to be like on a different level of unhinged that it's just like baffling, or it has to explore a lot of themes and be a little bit more like literary of a thriller, and it wasn't either of those. It was a little unhinged, but it wasn't like off the rails unhinged. But this is just so fun. We follow a family, and they are going to this island for the grandma's like 80th birthday or something like that. And she was born on Halloween, and she believes that this is going to be her last birthday because of what a psychic told her like years ago, and Granny ends up dead. So you know what I'm saying? Like, and then I have Lore Olympus, and this one I'm gonna put in Ain't No Lackin'. I like the Lore Olympus series. I think it's really fun. The art style is not my favorite. I think it's pretty sometimes, but sometimes I'm like, the characters literally look like a munchkin. Like, they literally look ugly sometimes. I'm sorry, but I had to say it. I had to get it off my chest. Like, I hate to tell y'all, but sometimes, especially them characters and the noses, just be looking ugly as hell. Like, a face that only a mother could love, really. But I really like the story. It's just a really slow burn romance, and I like a slow burn, but the slow is starting to get a little too slow for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just want a little bit more from the romance than what's being delivered, but I definitely will still be continuing on in the series. Next up I have Praise, and I'm gonna put that in That's My Man. I actually really surprisingly like this one. This is the first book in the Salacious Players Club series, and I thought that I was going to really love the second one, which I haven't read yet, but I wanted to read the first anyways. This one I read for my 48-hour reading vlog as well, but in this one we follow our main character, and she recently broke up with her boyfriend, and so they are breaking their lease on the apartment, but they want their deposit. So she does not have the time to go pick up the deposit because, you know, she's working and stuff like that, and the boyfriend just doesn't pick it up either, so it goes to the boyfriend's dad because he was actually like a co-signer on their lease, and he has a bad relationship with his dad, so he's like, if you want your half of the money, go get it from him. And so she ends up going, and the father is actually the owner of like a sex club that's opening up, and so he kind of has like women that are trying to meet his needs in a way or another, like not really his needs but more like his kinks, I should say, like, because it's not like they're not like prostitutes by any means, but you know, they're gonna like help him. But when she goes in there, he thinks that she is one of the women that's being sent for him to like test out like who is really gonna like do it for him. And so he's like, get on your knees, and she's like, why do I kind of like this? And at first I was like, ew, like gross, because one, age gap has not been it for me. Like age gap has been grossing me out in the past like year, but I actually really like how it was done here. And I was like, ew, because I was like, okay, like where's the feminism of it all? But she's really like divided of like, I like this, but I'm a feminist. But then she learns like from the club that like you can have these ideals, but that doesn't mean that your kinks and ideals are gonna like necessarily align. Like you can have a kink and that has nothing to do with like your actual like beliefs. So I really thought it was well done. I liked the writing. It was a steamy good time. I really liked it, and I would definitely recommend it. Then I have You've Lost a Lot of Blood, and I'm gonna put that in That's My Man. This one was a reread for me as well, and also my 48-hour readathon vlog. I really enjoyed this one. It is my second least favorite Eric LaRocca though, but I would still definitely recommend it. I have a guide to Eric LaRocca coming, so y'all will be seeing that soon. But this one follows a brother and sister as they are going to this mansion to basically help this video game developer develop his game. But that's actually a story within a story, and it is written by this man who has a boyfriend, and they kind of just kill people for funsies, you know what I'm saying? They are gay serial killers, which, you know, is giving Exquisite Corpse as well. But I'm not a huge fan of like the video game element, and this one did take a second read for me to really understand the themes fully. Then next up is The Spite House, and this one I'm putting in Bombastic Side-Eye. I'm sorry, I want to support black horror and black thrillers, but this one just did not eat. This one was slow, it was forgettable, and it just was so boring. Like, it was boring. It had no really redeemable qualities besides the fact that I really enjoyed like the dad's relationship with his daughters. Like, that's literally it. Nothing else about this book was good, which is why I gave it 2 stars. Yeah, I don't really want to harp on it too much because I don't really like talking bad about black authors, especially within horror, because black horror authors are so few and far between. But I just didn't like this one. The next up I have Secretly Yours, which I'm putting in You Sound Like a Effing Munchkin. I wish I enjoyed this one more because I love Tessa Bailey. And this one wasn't bad by any means. It was just like average. It was a Grumpy Sunshine romance from Tessa Bailey, which is, most of her books are Grumpy Sunshine. And it has to do with like a florist and everything like that. It was just really forgettable for me. And there has been a lot, like I just expected more from Tessa. And Tessa didn't give me what I wanted from Tessa. Like I love her books. And this one just, the steam wasn't necessarily like what I wanted. The characters felt really mediocre to me, but I did like the main character. She is more like a mid-sized girl, and the man like talks about that and like loves that about her, which I really did enjoy that aspect of the book. But besides that, it was just a pretty forgettable romance for me. Then I have The Writing Retreat, and I'm gonna put that in That's My Man. I actually really love The Writing Retreat, which I read for the Literally Dead book club. In it we follow a woman who is going to this writing retreat that's being hosted by like one of her favorite authors ever, and at the writing retreat is also basically like her nemesis. Like they used to be best friends, but now they like hate each other, and it's a little queer. It's very unhinged. It's so unhinged, which I absolutely love. It's so just like unhinged, and I loved the favorite author. Her name is Rosa, and I absolutely loved her, and I loved a lot of like the other side characters. Our main character is kind of annoying, and some of the things about her I don't enjoy, and like some of the thoughts that she has I don't enjoy, but I really like the side characters. I like the twist, I like the unhingedness, so I really did like it. And then I had The Trees Grew Because I Bled There, and I'm gonna put this one in You Know Them Dreadheads Do It the Best. I feel like this one is like the strongest overall collection from Eric LaRocca. I read so much Eric LaRocca in these 2 months. This one is not my favorite short story collection from Eric LaRocca, but it is, like, I think the strongest and most palatable to most people. This one, I can't even really talk about it because there's not like any overall themes, but it does explore like the human experience and the darkness of the human experience and the human psyche, but in a less like gory way than most other Eric LaRocca's works. But I really did enjoy this one. It has some of my favorite stories that I read from Eric LaRocca ever, and it has some that I'm just like, oh, like that was good, that was okay, but it has some that I absolutely really loved. The next up I have The Last Word, which I'm putting in You Sound Like a Effing Munchkin. Or it's kind of like between Ain't No Lacking and You Sound Like a Effing Munchkin. I'm actually going to put in Ain't No Lacking because this one was a good thriller. I enjoyed the discussions that it had around like authors and reviewers. It kind of was a little unhinged. I enjoyed like the action of it all, but it is just a little forgettable for me. This was Haley's Patreon book club pick for May, and during the live show, like I was like, I can't even talk to y'all about it really that much because I forgot so much of it, and a lot of people did forget it. So this one's like a 3.5 star for me. I enjoyed the themes a lot, I enjoyed the unhingedness and the action, but it was just a little forgettable, and that's okay. Then I have No One Writes for Free by Judith Sonnet, which was also my extreme horror reading vlog, and this one's going in You Know Them Dreadheads Do It the Best. This one is one of the best extreme horrors that I've ever read. I haven't read that many, to preface, but I absolutely just love this one. It's super graphic and depraved. Like, you literally need to be careful. It has a second warning in it, so you need to like actually watch out. Like, I wouldn't recommend this one widely because I don't think most people can handle extreme horror, but this is like the epitome of why I read extreme horror, and I go on a whole tangent about it in that video. To put a long story short, I just really like when people explore that humans are depraved people, and sometimes people just want to do horrible things for the sake of doing horrible things. Some people don't want money, some people don't want fame, some people just don't want any of that. They just get off on horrible things, and that's the reality of it, and I don't think we talk about that enough. So I really like how this one explored that, and it really does go to some extreme places, but I just absolutely ate it up. Then I have It's Me, Charlie, and I'm going to put this one in Ain't No Lacking. I really did enjoy this one. It's also in that extreme horror reading vlog. It's about a man who basically poses as this bookstagrammer online, this woman, and he becomes like best friends with this other like book influencer on Bookstagram and kidnaps her, and thinks that because she also writes books that he knows what she wants and is going to try and give that to her, and he thinks that they're like soulmates and that she's going to understand, which is like the thought of it is super terrifying for somebody like me because, you know, creepy people on the internet, and I'm like a book influencer, so like this took like my ideas and really brought them to life, but it wasn't like as extreme as I thought it was going to be. I thought like it could have really gone there, and it didn't. But there is like a urine scene, and the urine scene really, the urine and the spit, yeah, those scenes really did get me, but I wish it did kind of go there more than it did. Then I have There Is No Devil, and I'm going to put that in, oh gosh, it's not dragging, bro. I'm gonna put that in That's My Man. I did enjoy this one a lot. I gave this one 4 stars. I gave the first one 5 stars. So I really did like the ending of how the story wrapped up, but it was a little slow. I feel like it could have been cut down on some pages for sure. And there was like a lot of plotting and planning in the story, and that wasn't like necessarily like my favorite. But I did enjoy it overall, and I liked how it wrapped up the series, and I just love and adore the characters in this duology so much that I couldn't give it anything less than a 4 star. Like, I love the characters, I love the writing, and I love the ending. It was just a little slow for me, and the plotting and planning of some of the things that relate to the ending weren't my fave. And then lastly is 100% Match, which is going to go in the same category. That's My Man. This one follows a man who is super gross, and he's trying to find his 100% match. There's a lot of statistics about what women like in here. He does a lot of gross, disgusting things, and I really enjoyed like the gross disgustingness of it all. I thought it was super well done. It was just a really quick, fun novella that's not too extreme. If you want something that's a little gross but not like extreme, I would definitely recommend this one, and I talk more about it in that extreme horror reading vlog as well. So those are all the books that I read for the past 2 months and them ranked. This is my final ranking. I hope that y'all enjoyed this video. If you made it to the end, leave the little knife emoji down below because I read so much horror the past couple months, and I will see y'all in my next one. Bye, everybody.
Trying to look like you're winning.